And you've heard my personal accent when I speak English, but as a Roman, this should be my accent. So really, really strong. Every time that you pronounce a word, it's like as if you were carrying a huge rucksack full of stones. So every time, this would be the accent.
This is Italian for Sure, the podcast about Italian culture. I'm your host, Catrin Skaperdas, an American living in Italy, and I interview Italians who passionately share their wisdom, stories, and insights about Italian culture. Hi, Maddalena. Thank you for joining Italian for Sure.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. Really.
I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Could you start by introducing yourself? Maybe just share where you're from in Italy and a little bit about you and your expertise.
Okay, I'm from Rome. So it's the capital of Italy, which is in the middle of the Italian, what we call the boot. And I was born here, but I spent three years abroad, a little bit in France, and then mainly in Spain. I like to define myself as a polyglot artist just because I really struggle to put myself and what I like doing in one single, bundle, so to say. Also because let's say that when I became familiar with the concept of multi-potentialite, I said, okay, so it's not really that you have to get specialized in one single thing, but mainly, if I need to tell what I have studied, I've studied foreign languages and linguistics, and then I have a master's degree in international relations. So let's say that I do a lot of things. So my area of expertise is a little bit wide because I sing, I play the ukulele. I mean, I am a self-taught, is this the way you say it? Okay. So I cannot say I really play an instrument, but I do sing. I love acting. I write. But the only thing is that I do all of this in several languages. So that's why I say I'm a polyglot artist.
That is very impressive. And what's that word you use? Multi-potential?
Multi-potentialite.
I have never heard that before. I really like that. I'm going to use that in my life now. Thank you for sharing that.
I really suggest you to deep dive into this concept and idea. It really links all the people that have a lot of interests because, of course, you grow up, especially in my country, I need to admit this, you really grow up with a lot of pressure. It's like you need to grow up with clear ideas where you need to be sure of what you want to do. And if it's not like that, it can be a problem. And it was a problem for me at the beginning because I was like, oh, I'm good at singing, but should I become a singer? But I also like this. And it's also that you're pretty good at doing those things. Mm-hmm. But people have that idea that if you master too many things, then you're not really specialized in none of them. So, but why should I be specialized in one single thing? So in the end, I realized that it's better to feel comfortable within yourself instead of deciding to be a doctor or whatever just because you need to do one single thing.
Absolutely, to fill a box. So, and can you tell me then about your path to being a polyglot? How did you get there? What led you to be so enthusiastic about languages and imitations, which we'll get to in a bit, that led you to specialize in being a polyglot?
When I was very young, I met my teacher. I was probably 8 years old. She was my English teacher, and I was very impressed by the way she could change personality when she was speaking English. Of course, she was Italian. So I was like, oh my God, it's like she's pausing herself for a while to be someone else. Or, I mean, I don't like to say someone else. I like to say a different version of yourself. And basically, I need to I want to be grateful for that part of myself that it's not, that wants to do everything. Because when it came the moment to decide what I had to do, what I had to study for the university, In that moment, I realized that I didn't want to do anything specific. And so I said, let's study the tools to communicate. Let's study a different channel to communicate, a different way. So instead of studying a specific profession, so that's why I decided to study languages. And the thing is that I realized that I have a lot of passions, but I also feel I have several personalities inside of myself. And so when I listen to myself speaking a different language, it's like giving myself the possibility to unleash one of the parts, one of my sides. So this is the reason why I became so enthusiastic.
What an incredible story. And as someone who's learning Italian, Italian is, I don't know any other languages. I did take 5 years of French when I was in school, but I can only tell you that I love you and that my name is Catrin in French, and that's about it. But now, I'm learning Italian, and one of the things that I actually can't wait for is that moment where I could express myself and my personality through Italian. Because right now I am able to communicate when I need to order something or speak in Italian, but I'm unable to express, like, as you mentioned, like that side of me through Italian, my personality through Italian. So I'm really looking forward to that moment.
It will come. I'll tell you
Thank you
for sure. It will come. But I understand what you're saying, because with German, for instance, I feel my personality comes out, but I'm too focused on the way I say things. I know that I make mistakes. I am a little bit afraid of being judged, which is something that everyone experience with when they speak a different language, when they speak a foreign language. But there will be a moment that you will say, look, this is not my mother tongue. There is no problem, but you will need to feel comfortable, because otherwise it's like trying to fit in clothes that are too small for you, and so you don't have you don't have room for movement.
Thank you to all of the Italians out there that have been so kind to me when I've tried to speak Italian, broken and, incorrect grammar. And most Italians have been very kind and allowed me to try. They've had patience for me to build my sentences very slowly. I've had a few, of course, experiences where people weren't as patient, or maybe they just switched to English, or they got frustrated because I said something incorrect. That happens. But 99.9% of Italians have been very kind and supportive to my journey of learning Italian.
And you have something that can support you, which is learning the dictionary of gestures. We will speak about it later. But I mean, if you don't have the right word, but you can say it with your hands, go for it.
Yes, I have to get better at my Italian hand gestures, which we will definitely talk about. So I have to ask, how many languages do you speak? And what languages are those?
Okay, I speak, let's say, 5-6 languages.
Wow.
So Italian, English, Spanish, French, German, and a little bit of Catalan. But Catalan is the language I didn't study. I've never studied it because it's simply, when I was living in both Valencia and Mallorca, they do have a version of Catalan, which is the language that is spoken in Catalonia, and that is the region, Comunidad. This is the area of Barcelona, but I didn't live there. So it is a version of it. But I need to admit that it's even more similar to Italian than Spanish. So I've learned it through, people speaking in the country I was living in, but also through a TV series. So this is, like, nowadays you don't really need to travel to learn a language. Of course it's better, and it makes the process faster. Definitely. But you do have a lot of channels, a lot of ways to improve your language skills.
I know many Americans that, like myself, that don't speak other languages unless they were brought up in a bilingual household. Maybe their parents spoke a different language to them from a baby. But learning languages as an adult, in my experience, happens a little less often. So anybody being able to speak even 2 languages So being in Italy where many people do speak English, and obviously Italian for me is already impressive, let alone any additional language. So
definitely. No. I agree. And probably there is one thing that makes me feel like, wow, whenever I can see that change of personality, like you really master a language in a way that you feel comfortable with it, and your facial expression changes, that is impressive for me.
So another thing that's impressive to me is that you have currently over 123,000 followers on Instagram, creating content where you do really interesting and funny videos of accents of Italian speaking English across the different regions. Can you tell us more about the content that you create?
Okay, I create a lot of different topics, but let's say mainly related to languages, to foreign languages. But some of them, like I like to call them spunti linguistici, which is something like probably language sparks, something like this. And it's where I try to transmit this love that I have for foreign languages. For example, there are some videos in which I explain one concept in all the languages that I speak. For instance, there is the way to draw the attention. You say draw the attention in English. You say prestare attenzione in Italian, which is like you borrow your attention. But it's like, how can I borrow it? Like once I have given it to you, it's done. You cannot give it back to me. And in German, for instance, is schenken, which is a verb for give it as a gift, which is like the truth, because it's like you give it and then you don't give it back. You don't get it back. Then I do, as you said, I try to change the accent. I started doing it with like the accents from people coming from different countries. So, for example, I try to do the French person that speaks like that. And then, for example, I can do that with the Spanish accent. So many people, when they have to say the H, they do it like that. And then I can also do it with the German accent. So I love doing all of that.
That's amazing. Wow.
I really enjoy it. And so I started doing that also with the Italian accents. I started doing that. Mainly, I realized I had that sort of talent when I was doing my Erasmus in Spain, because I used to meet, I only wanted to live with Spanish people because I didn't want to live with Italians, because I only wanted to improve my Spanish. This was the main reason. But of course, I met a lot of Italians during the parties and so on. They were like speaking with me, talking speaking Spanish, of course, with their own accent. So I said, okay, my accent is different from yours and so on. And I tried to imitate it. And of course, I started doing it with English as well. And I think that video got something like 8.5 million views. It was
impressive.
Incredible. And I don't know, maybe you can tell because you live in Milan. When people from Milan speak, they usually have this accent, and it's like, oh my God, it's really, it's a bit posh, because of course you can tell from my facial expression, I can change a little bit my personality. They speak a lot about fashion. Of course, this is a stereotype, but you know, this is the way. And you've heard my my personal accent when I speak English, but as a Roman, this should be my accent. So really, really strong. Every time that you pronounce a word, it's like as if you were carrying a huge rucksack full of stones. So every time, this would be the accent. So, okay, but it's difficult for me because it's not that I'm pretending not to have that accent. This is my natural one. Like now, probably it gets a little bit towards the American because I'm talking to you, but it changes. It depends. I got asked, like people asked me this question several times, like, how does your accent change when you speak it depends on the feelings that I'm having in that precise moment, but also it depends on the person I'm speaking with. So to complete this part, since I did an accent from the north, one of the center and the other one from the south, maybe I can do an accent from Sicily. It would be something like that. And it's really interesting because many people say, I cannot tell the difference. But if we really, concentrate, focus on this type of accent, I think you can tell that the three of them are different, Yeah, so this is the thing.
Wow, I am blown away. I am so impressed. That's incredible. And I have noticed the different accents of people speaking Italian from different regions. And I can't say that I hear them myself when it's happening in the moment. Now that you did them back to back, of course, I can hear them. But I notice them because people I'm with, if they're from one particular region, for example, if I'm with someone from the Piedmont region, and then they hear someone speak from, like you said, from Sicily, or also from the region of Lazio, they sometimes say, oh, I can't really understand what they're saying. And for me, I'm like, well, they're speaking Italian. And they say, yeah, but it's such a strong accent. I can't understand everything. I have to look at their lips. I'm like, I'm already looking at their lips because I'm learning Italian. So it's such an interesting concept. But it is true. I mean, listen, I speak English, but I speak American English. And sometimes if I'm watching a show and it has a strong Irish accent, for example, it's still English, but sometimes I put subtitles on. So I do understand it.
No, and I need to, I can relate to this because my boyfriend comes from Campania region, which is the region of Naples. And oh my God, at the beginning, it was so difficult. Even if I could watch the lips and I could read, let's say, what the person was saying, it was still difficult because the accent was completely different. And so I had this technique, and it's the technique of Mamma Mia. So imagine that I tried to get what they were saying, like not what they were saying, but at least the topic from the intonation. So even if I couldn't understand a word about the whole sentence, my comment was simply, oh, mamma mia, or mamma mia. Or so the word was always the same, but I slightly modified it according to the tone or the accent they were using in that moment. But I wasn't able to understand a word.
That's quite funny that mamma mia is the word of your example, or the phrase, I should say, of your example, because actually when I met my fiance, we had started texting before we met in person, and via text, he used to say mamma mia. And I wasn't sure if he actually was Italian or if he was Italian American, because I wasn't sure if people in Italy actually said mamma mia, because I had never been to Italy until I met him in person. And the second he started speaking, I was like, oh, okay, you're actually from Italy, Italian. But yeah, I didn't know that people actually said mamma mia. I didn't know if it was something like in movies. I know sometimes things are changed or exaggerated, or maybe it was something that happened in the past and it doesn't happen in the present. But yeah, so yeah, that's something I didn't know Italians say, and they do say mamma mia.
We do. We don't usually do mamma mia like this, because every time I say, look, I'm Italian. Oh, I can speak Italiano, mandolino, pasta. And it's like, no, no. But we do say it.
No, I understand. Can you tell us about hand gestures in Italy? I mean, you kind of did like one right now for our listeners who aren't watching on YouTube. The hand, what is it? The hand purse, I think this is called, where the fingers, all the fingers are touching at the tips. It's facing up your wrist, and you kind of do like a little shake with your wrist. I'm not doing that correctly, I'm sure. There was a trend going around on social media at one point that people were doing that without any understanding of what it means. Doesn't it mean kind of like che cosa fai? Like what are you doing?
So the meaning of this, it's like, what are you doing? But also, what are you talking about? So I think what they did, there was a trend on TikTok, on Instagram. And I think this is exactly a sort of symbol for Italy. So whenever, as I told you before, like mamma mia is what they say to identify us. And if they have to do it with one hand, it would be like this gesture.
The hand purse.
Exactly. But if you combine it with a sort of, oh, while you're doing it, is exactly what are you doing? So you move your hand, and in the meantime, you can say, oh.
What if I have both hands in the hand purse? My shoulders are kind of up, and I'm a little bit like angry. Is that the same hand gesture, or is that considered a different one? Okay.
No, it's the same, but it's much more powerful if you do it with two hands. It's like, what are you doing?
I've seen it on the road, the road rage. That's kind of the gesture I've seen the most.
Yeah. Also, when people are driving, because they would like to communicate with the other person in another car, and of course, it's not possible to listen to a person in another car, and so you do this, and it's like, what do you, it could also mean, what do you want from me? Okay, so it could have another meaning. So other gestures that could be worth mentioning. Oh my God, I have an anecdote linked to this, because once I was sitting, I don't remember exactly where, but I wanted to empathize with a person that was not able to speak English, and of course couldn't speak Italian either. And so I was sitting, probably was a bar or a restaurant. Anyway, we were having some food, because I wanted to say, oh, this is really tasty. And I was doing like this.
And so finger on the cheek, kind of turning.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that person was like, what do you mean? Like, his facial expression was like, I don't get the point,
right?
You know? And I was keeping on doing that, unrolling this finger. I was almost creating a hole in my cheek. And in the end, I was like, this means that it's tasty. But of course, we couldn't understand each other. So it was really pointless. But this means this is tasty. And it's something that you do with kids. For example, I think the first language that Italian children start speaking is actually this, let's say, gesture language, because you look at your kid, at your child, and if you do like this, it means
so your finger's kind of in your dimple. You're almost giving yourself a dimple, and then kind of spinning your finger.
Yeah, it means this is good, but in related to something that you can taste.
Yeah. So I think, as an American, my first instinct, I think, would be to like rub my belly, like rub my tummy and go, and if I could say like, as I'm rubbing my belly. But I don't know. I mean, we don't have universal or national hand gestures, I think.
Thank God.
We can say like as Italians do. But that's a good one. That's a good one to know. That's a funny story that she was like, what are you doing, lady?
Yeah. And if you do this with your hands with like close to your belly, in Italian, it means that you're hungry. So if you're doing that while you're eating, it might be a little bit, it might create a misunderstanding, because it's like, are you or maybe that your belly hurts, that you have stomach ache. So it's like, are you eating but you're still hungry? Well, what's wrong? So yeah,
that is good to know.
Yeah. So oh my God, I really love this. You will explain how I will move my hand, because I really don't know how to say this. But if you do like this, so you move your hand towards,
I would say you flick the wrist with the palm straight, so the hand completely extended, and you kind of flick your wrist upwards.
Okay. If you do it upwards, you're telling someone, go, please go.
Okay.
Or now it's time for you to go. It's a bit rude, because if I tell you, it means that's it, go. I don't want, just leave. Okay. And it's a bit rude. If you change direction.
Okay, so now you're flicking your wrist down, but with the same hand fully extended, like palm fingers extended.
Exactly.
You flick it down, and then that means?
It means I'll beat you up. I'll hit you. And it's like, really, it's a sort of like when I remember when I was a kid, it meant that I had to stop doing what I was doing, because I was doing something dangerous. So my parents could tell. So I knew the meaning of that symbol, of that gesture, and I had to stop. Of course, it's not literal literal, but this is the meaning.
That's a good one. My mom, I think, if I recall, my parents would give me the eye, meaning my parents would just look at me so deeply into my soul that I knew that they were trying to tell me, stop what you're doing or you will be in trouble.
Yeah, I understand. Another one would be when you want to tell someone that you would do something later, or maybe someone is telling you, can we have a word? And you want to let them know, no, I can't, I'm busy. Let's do it later. You simply do this. You simply roll your finger, which means, later. And the last one is when you're scared, you do like this.
Looks like a jellyfish.
Yeah.
Like an upside down jellyfish.
Yes.
So all my fingers are facing the sky in like kind of the purse hand formation again. But now I'm touching them like I'm opening and close, opening and close. And that means I'm scared.
Are you scared?
Are you scared?
Yes.
Not that I'm scared.
No, you cannot do it for yourself.
Okay.
It's to let someone know, is it a scary situation for you? Are you feeling that anxiety? And you do it with a sort of...
because I'm going to beat you up.
You should be scared because I'll be...
You can have a whole conversation with hand gestures.
Exactly. Next time that
what are you doing? I'm going to beat you up. Are you scared?
That's amazing. No, what are you saying?
Amazing.
Nice.
Thank you for sharing all those. I mean, it is incredible. I have seen Italians that have conversations pretty much all in hand gestures. And I've also heard Italians say, or I guess it's not saying, but yeah, making sounds. So a couple of my favorites are bo. Bo. I mean, you can do it better.
Bo.
And the other is like my tongue is touching the top of the palate of my mouth. What do those mean?
Okay, bo, it's like when you have no clue. So what does it mean? Bo. And if you can also lift your shoulders somehow, it gives that feeling of really, I have no clue. Bo. But that bo, I love it. It's something that I really love because it expresses a lot of feelings. So really, bo. And it has this sort of explosion from your mouth. So I find it really interesting. And then, yeah, you have this, it's something like, I don't care. Or have you been there? No. Or, I don't know. Are you interested in that activity? Absolutely not.
But you don't even say the absolutely not.
No.
You just make the sound.
I was making the translation.
No, of course, no. But because this has been, for foreigners, I've heard stories where people are very confused because an Italian will just make the sound.
Yeah.
And then the foreigner will ask the question again, like, yes or no? I don't, what does it mean?
Yeah. No. So without the sentence. So it's like, no.
Amazing. Are there other sounds that you can think of that you know maybe foreigners probably hear a lot or that you make often that we wouldn't know the meaning of?
Okay, one of them would be se. It can mean a lot of different things. One would be like the main one, I think, would be I don't believe you. Like, for example, you tell your friend that you're in Rome, and she says, "Se, I don't believe you." Or that, like, now I'm in Rome, and in 2 hours I will be in Tokyo. Se, it's impossible, you know. But this, the more you do it within your shoulders, so se, and also you can also add a hand gesture, like moving your hand backwards, the more you get to the point. So it's like, say, I don't believe you at all.
I love those. I think it's very interesting how different countries, different languages, and different cultures express sound differently. And I noticed that when I learned about the different animal sounds. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, in America, the dog says woof woof. And the dog in Italy says bow bow. And this was very, very interesting to me. And I mean, it makes complete sense because it's a different language. There's different sounds that you're used to. It's honestly not something that I didn't expect. It's just something I didn't think about prior to learning a different language, prior to learning Italian. And there's been others, like instead of in comic books, instead of maybe if there's a slam of the door in a comic book in the US, it might say bam to express that sound of the door slamming. While in Italian, it's spam. Just a third I noticed because it's another common one. Instead of knock knock on the door, also because we tell like knock knock jokes in America, in Italian, the sound is toc toc.
Toc toc. Yeah.
So these are all so interesting to me.
You were impressed with the dog, so bow bow. I was really impressed when I studied what the rooster, like the sound of the rooster, because for us it's kikiriki. And when I've read something like cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, I said, what a posh rooster. Cock-a-doodle-doo. I imagine.
That's amazing.
But I mean,
and it was the same for me when I read Kikiriki. I was like, what?
What about the bird, for instance? You said tweet, right?
Yeah, tweet, tweet.
And for us, it's chip, chip.
Okay, maybe chirp, chirp, tweet, tweet. I'm not sure because I don't have kids yet, so I haven't had those books that have all the animal sounds. But yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, it is. When a telephone rings, or maybe also the sound of the alarm clock is drin drin. Then the clock needles do tick tock. And then the bells, but also the doorbell, is dlin dlon. Dlin dlon. You say dlin dlon like this. And then, we say slurp when something is really tasty. Oh, slurp. It's comics, something that you would, I don't think you would say it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's something that you write. You wouldn't say this.
I understand.
While all the others, you would. I did dlin dlon in Italian. You would say something like this, or maybe the telephone was doing. In the meantime, the telephone was like drin drin, and so I couldn't go there. I mean, you can say them out loud, but slurp, not really. And I just discovered that slurp is when you in English, it's when you drink or eat in a noisy way. This is something that I discovered while I was trying to take notes of all these nice expressions and sounds. And then boom for an explosion.
Boom. I think it's the same.
Yeah, I think that's the same. The car. Also, this is a way. This is let's say this is the way kids learn. Instead of saying car, which is macchina in Italian, they say brum brum. La brum brum is the car.
I think we say vroom vroom.
Yeah.
Like with a V. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that one. Switching back to actual Italian words for a second. I'm learning Italian, and one of the difficult things for me to learn is how to perfect the sound of double consonants. So 2 consonant letters in a row. For example, to an American, when we say spaghetti, we grew up saying spaghetti. Now, anyone listening is like, yeah, it's spaghetti. What's wrong with that? Because I'm saying spaghetti, now I know, with 1 T, when in fact it has 2 T's, which would be more like spaghetti.
That's perfect.
Okay, grazie. I've been practicing, but it's a difficult concept for me, at least. I don't know for other foreigners learning who don't have a concept of double consonants, differentiating the sound of the word. Because in English, if you say spaghetti or you say spaghetti, they're gonna say it sounds exactly the same. So, what are other words that maybe you have heard foreigners struggle with when learning Italian?
It's strange. I mean, it's not strange, but it's really interesting because the other examples I could come up with were always related to, not even to food, but to pasta. Exactly. So if I can tell you something, by the way, you say spaghetti very well.
Oh, thank you. Grazie.
The thing is that the consonant that is used when American people, for example, say spaghetti, it's not T. It's a sort of mixture between an R and a D, spaghetti. Da, da, da. It does this sound. But if you say T, like tick, or I don't know, another word that starts with T right now.
Tavola.
Yeah, in English.
In English, table.
Table. Okay, it's the same. Table, and then you say spaghetti. Then you can make it, because actually, yeah, the consonant that is used when you say spaghetti is different. But other two words that were really interesting are gnocchi. When I hear gnocchi, and this is mainly because in English you never combine the sound of GN. You kind of split it. When you say magnet or signature, it's slightly different when you have this sound at the end of the word. For example, sign. So it's a softer N. But in Italian, there is something that happens, which is a consonant, ñ, consonant sound. And it's very interesting because it's completely different. So this gnocchi becomes gnocchi. So it's a nasal palatal. So the tongue is really squeezed on the palate. So ñ. And then, of course, it's not gnocchi, but it's gnocchi. Can you say this one?
Gnocchi.
Bravissima.
Grazie.
Very good. I don't think we have gn in Italian. I cannot think about any words with the gn sound.
Gonna hire you to help me with my Italian pronunciations. Amazing. And, are there words that you, as an Italian, do you have trouble pronouncing certain words in English? For example, some of my friends here, they have a hard time pronouncing the H of hair. And so hair and air sound the same. Is it the same for you? And do you have any words that you struggle with in English or in other languages?
I don't have problems with the sound itself, but it might become difficult. And I have noticed it with a lot of Italian students that I've had during my career. Sometimes it becomes difficult to combine the sounds. So if I have to say hair, that's fine. But sometimes I've noticed that it happens that when you're using a word with the H, then people become sort of not crazy, but that it becomes difficult to understand where that H actually goes. So some Italians have troubles, and sometimes they don't put the H, for example, before air, so hair, but they might put it where it doesn't, where it is not. So sometimes it's not the sound itself, but the combination of the sounds in the flow of a sentence.
I think I understand. A recent example of the pronunciation of H, the H sound, being difficult for an Italian that I had was with my Italian teacher, who we were talking about the Super Bowl. We were talking about halftime, and she pronounced it, well, she used the article, so the L apostrophe halftime, and she said laugh time. And I thought it was honestly very cute and endearing, because for me it's such a like language, learning a different language. I understand how difficult it can be, so it's never a matter of like making fun of somebody for saying something different, but a moment of like, oh wow, you pronounce it that way, almost a shock. So she pronounced it laugh time, which I thought was very cute.
One word that we say, and that I need to admit that I also say, because I mean, my pronunciation is rather good when I speak English, but of course, when I speak Italian and I use an English word, I will pronounce that with the Italian pronunciation, not in order not to sound weird, because, and so I said, mangiamo un hamburger. So I don't say the H, a hamburger, and of course the pronunciation it's completely different. And but with the H, something that happens is that we actually don't have this sound in our language. So we have the H, but it means that that word has another grammatical meaning inside of the sentence. So,
I understand, because actually in America, it's also a topic of conversation. If you know that the word is bruschetta, do I say, hi, I want to order a bruschetta? Or am I going to say either bruschetta, I'll say the k, or even bruschetta, because I know in America, we often, pronounce it incorrectly as bruschetta. But if I'm in America and I know that that's how the person's going to understand it, or also like I grew up with my grandparents immigrated to America from Greece. So for example, in my household, it was gyro for the gyro, which is the pita sandwich. But sometimes my parents heard me say gyro and I'd say, but because I know that that's what they're going to understand if I'm ordering a gyro in America at a Greek restaurant. So I understand that. And that brings me to my next question. So one or two words that I hear very often pronounced possibly incorrectly, but this is the question, in America that are Italian are mozzarella and prosciutto. But often they're shortened into mozzarella and prosciutto. And I want to know, because I know there are dialects in different regions, is it a matter of people who immigrated from a particular area with a particular dialect, or is it just simply incorrect, or just get changed along the way when people immigrated from Italy to the US?
I have the feeling that it's the first option, because this is the first thing I could think of, because in Italian, it's mozzarella, prosciutto. But, and we get back to my boyfriend's region, in Campania, we have it very often, this schwa sound at the end of a word. It is written in phonetics and so on, it's written as an E upside down. And the sound is really, all your muscles in the mouth are relaxed. So it's and that's why it's mozzarella, prosciutto. And I think it must be definitely related to someone who went to America and brought some of the Southern dialect.
Thank you for broadening my education about the Italian language. It's something that I hope to master one day. And I love learning all about the language. As I am going through the process of learning the language, I have come across some words that I've learned through my friends that I should avoid. And I won't say them in Italian, but like potato and bird. So the words in Italian, they actually could mean something different, but in slang. So what are some words in Italian that maybe a foreigner should be aware of if they're trying to practice and speak Italian in Italy to an Italian person, that of course maybe an Italian person would know, okay, they're a foreigner, they don't know the slang meaning. But I would love to know, what are some of those words that I should maybe avoid?
Okay, if I can tell something like very quickly, it happened to me like as an Italian that went to live in Spain with that concept of patata. Wait, I meant it's potato. It has a double meaning, but the first meaning is what you eat. So there's no problem. So we have this second meaning. Maybe we can explain people. So it's related to female genitals. But in Spain, la patata, and it's exactly the same word. Of course, related to potato, what you eat. But it's a way to call the heart. So there is a huge difference in saying I love you with my potato in Italian and in Spanish, And so specific words, I would like to tell you an anecdote because it happened to me with a friend of mine. There is this these two words that are kind of similar, which is scoprire, which is to find out, to discover. And can we swear in this podcast, or you can beep me?
Yeah, go for it.
No, it's not that I want, but it's for
educational purposes.
Exactly. This is exactly what I wanted to say. And then there is scopare, which means to So there was, but like
quite different
in that way. But a friend of mine, instead of saying, so she was saying instead of ho scoperto, so I have discovered, she said ho scopato. But in that sentence, it was perfect. Like, it was perfect meaning-wise. But of course, the context was not perfect. And so everyone was staring at her and she was like, what did I say? Ho scopato. And I was like, ho scoperto. Ho scoperto. And so, yeah, sometimes we need to pay attention, but it's something really, really common. For instance, when I had to say cock-a-doodle-doo, that's why I decided to say rooster, because I'm not, I always try to avoid that other word, which means rooster, but I prefer the other one, which I feel more comfortable with.
I understand. I will definitely get better at learning those two verbs so I don't mix them up. I've had my fair share of embarrassing moments already, and I'm sure I will have more, but that's just the growing pains of learning a different language. And
Definitely.
It's worth it. Definitely worth it. Well, Maddalena, it's been so nice having you on the podcast. Really, thank you for all the insight, the great information that you had to share. And before I let you go, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share?
If you're now listening to my words, it means that you have listened to the whole podcast. So first of all, thank you. It was really a pleasure to be here. I just want to invite people to explore the world of foreign languages and try to learn as much as possible and not be blocked by the fear of, we all have this fear of it's impossible to be perfect. Thank God it's impossible to be perfect, but don't let this fear prevent you from getting in touch with different cultures and people, because languages are the key that really can open a lot of doors.
I completely agree with that. Thank you so much, Maddalena.
Thank you. This is Italian for Sure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Italian for Sure. If you liked what you heard, make sure to hit the follow button wherever you listen to podcasts, and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you want to connect, find me on Instagram and TikTok at Italian for Sure, and let me know what you found most interesting. Until next time.